This van gets people fined every week in 2026, and it's the one every channel tells you to buy. People are spending $40,000 on it, getting it converted, moving in, and then getting targeted, not because they broke the law, but because they bought the wrong vehicle for the wrong market, and nobody explained what that actually costs. And the worst part? The van getting targeted the most isn't the cheapest one. Here's what makes this dangerous. The buyers getting hit aren't making obvious mistakes, they're following the most popular advice in this space, and that advice was written for a different enforcement environment than the one that exists right now. By the end of this video, you'll know which van types carry the highest enforcement risk in 2026, which configurations are triggering citations before buyers finish moving in, what the real financial exposure looks like, and exactly how smart buyers are structuring their purchase to eliminate that risk entirely. This is buyer intelligence, and it's worth $15,000 to the person who applies it. Why this is happening now? This didn't come out of nowhere. Understanding the cause is what lets you predict where enforcement goes next, which directly affects your travel routes and your long-term cost exposure. Here's where it starts costing you weekly, before most buyers even realize it's a problem. Two things collided between 2020 and 2025. Van life went mainstream, prices spiked, YouTube made it look effortless, conversion shops had 6-month wait lists. At the same time, urban vehicle dwelling increased sharply across major cities as housing costs pushed more people into permanent van living as a financial strategy, not a travel choice. Local governments couldn't legally distinguish between someone in a $90,000 Sprinter build and someone in a $4,000 beater, so they wrote vehicle dwelling ordinances that captured both. According to the National Homelessness Law Center, over 100 U.S. cities have enacted or expanded these ordinances since 2020. This is the part buyers ignore, and it's the part that matters most. Enforcement doesn't check your bank account, it checks your vehicle type, your parking location, and your behavioral signals, and that's exactly where your buying decision either protects you or exposes you to something that compounds every single week you're parked in the wrong vehicle. The Smart Buyer Rule for 2026. Here's where most buyers get this completely wrong. They're asking the wrong question. Which van is most popular? Which one has the most YouTube content? Which one looks best at a campsite? Smart buyers in 2026 ask something different. Which van is legally positioned to survive the enforcement environment I'm actually driving into? This is the part that doesn't show up in listings, and it's the part where the $15,000 mistakes are made. That means filtering every vehicle through 3 criteria before spending a dollar. How is it classified on paper? What does it visually signal to enforcement on the street? And what is the realistic financial cost when those two things work against you? Every van in this video gets evaluated through those 3 filters, not aesthetics, not horsepower, legal survivability, and financial exposure, because that's what determines whether this lifestyle actually works long-term or turns into a problem you can't park your way out of. Van 1, the Mercedes Sprinter. Maximum capability, maximum target. Let's start with the one everyone wants and the one creating the most problems right now. Remember that open question from the beginning? The van getting targeted the most isn't the cheapest one? This is that van. The Sprinter is the most popular van life platform in North America and Western Europe. It is also, in 2026, the single most targeted vehicle in urban enforcement environments across both continents. Here's where it gets expensive, and this is where most buyers realize it too late. This is the only van on this list where buyers are actively paying to fix a problem they created the moment they bought it. You spend $45,000, build it out, move in, then spend another $2,000 trying to make it look like you're not living in it. That's not a van life inconvenience, that's a compounding buying mistake, and it starts before you ever park for the first time. In 2026, buying the wrong van doesn't just cost you money, it turns your vehicle into a probable cause. Here's why. The Sprinter has become a visual shorthand for vehicle dwelling in the minds of enforcement officers across Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Denver, and Austin. An open-roof Sprinter with blackout curtains in a residential neighborhood triggers a different response than the same setup in a different vehicle. That's not a legal distinction, it's a behavioral pattern recognition, and it's costing Sprinter owners real money in the most popular van life markets in the country. This is where the mistake compounds hardest. Used price range $28,000 to $65,000 for 2018 to 2021 models with under 100,000 miles. That's the reliability window. Avoid anything pre-2014. The older CDI diesel has a timing chain history that runs $4,000 to $7,000 to fix properly. That repair doesn't announce itself. It happens around 90,000 miles, usually to buyers who didn't know to ask. Enforcement exposure. High in dense urban markets, reducible but not eliminated with a full stealth retrofit that costs money you didn't budget at purchase. Hidden cost. The stealth retrofit buyers don't see coming. Roof vents, visible solar arrays, builder branding on the glass. A converted Sprinter with those features needs $1,500 to $3,000 of post-purchase work to become visually neutral. This is the part that doesn't show up in listings. It shows up 3 months in, when citations start stacking. Some insurance companies are already flagging improperly classified Sprinter conversions, which directly affects claims when habitation-related damage occurs. Get the RV title correct before the policy is written, or the classification problem follows you into a claim when you can least afford it. Who should not buy it? Anyone planning primary urban dwelling in Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Amsterdam, Paris, or Barcelona. For rural travel, wilderness routes, and campsite-based living, the Sprinter's capability justifies every dollar. For urban primary use, you're paying a premium to carry maximum risk. Van 2, the Ford Transit, the smartest legal move for U.S. buyers. Now here's where smart buyers go in the opposite direction, and most people completely miss why. The Transit isn't the most exciting van on this list, it's the most legally defensible one for U.S. buyers, and in 2026, that distinction is worth more than any mechanical upgrade you could make. Here's the part most buyers ignore entirely. The Transit is the easiest cargo van platform to title as a recreational vehicle in the United States, and that RV title is the single most underutilized legal tool available to any van buyer right now. In 34 U.S. states, a vehicle registered as an RV carries fundamentally different legal standing under overnight parking and vehicle dwelling ordinances than a commercial cargo vehicle. Cities that explicitly ban habitation in cargo vans often have carve-outs for properly registered recreational vehicles. Same physical van, same interior build, completely different legal exposure, determined entirely by what your title says. This is where the money is saved before you ever start driving. The Transit's floor plan flexibility makes it straightforward to meet minimum RV titling criteria in most states: a sleeping area, cooking facility, and sanitation component. A conversion shop providing certification documentation handles this at purchase. DMV cost $150 to $500. Legal protection value, ongoing and compounding, and nearly impossible to retrofit cheaply after the fact. Used price range $22,000 to $48,000 for 2017 to 2022 models. The 3.5-liter EcoBoost is capable but has documented PCV system sensitivity. Neglected examples develop oil consumption and turbo seal issues. Always pull a compression test on any EcoBoost over 80,000 miles. A $1,500 inspection prevents a $3,500 repair bill every single time. Enforcement exposure. Moderate by default, reducible to low with correct RV titling and a lower visual profile than the Sprinter. In most U.S. markets, a properly titled Transit is the most defensible van life platform you can buy. Hidden cost. Deferred maintenance on high mileage examples. Budget $1,500 into any offer on a van over 90,000 miles, or use it as negotiating leverage to bring the price down before you sign. Who should not buy it? European buyers. Ford Transit parts availability and dealer network support in continental Europe is significantly weaker than in the US and UK. Building a long-term travel platform on a Transit for European routes is a supply chain problem waiting to happen.
If you're still thinking this is about where you park, you're missing the entire point. This is about what you bought. The parking location is a symptom. The vehicle classification, the title, the visual profile, those are the decisions that determine your legal and financial exposure before you ever choose a campsite. That's what we're solving here. Keep watching. Van 3, the Ram ProMaster. Lowest profile, highest mechanical risk. Now here's where smart buyers go in a direction most people completely dismiss. And this is the controversial insight for 2026. The most expensive vans are often the worst urban purchases you can make. The ProMaster makes that case more clearly than any other vehicle on this list. Here's what buyers miss, and this is where it starts costing them weekly without realizing it. The ProMaster is the least visually associated with van life culture of any full-size cargo van on the market. It doesn't trigger the same behavioral pattern recognition as a Sprinter or Transit in high-enforcement urban environments. That lower profile is a real, measurable operational advantage, and it's why some of the most strategically minded buyers in 2026 are quietly choosing it over more prestigious platforms. Here's where it gets complicated, because the mechanical picture is the opposite of the enforcement picture. The front-wheel drive ZF 9-speed transmission in 2014 to 2016 ProMasters has a documented recall history that the used market hasn't consistently priced into asking prices. Buyers see a lower number and assume bargain. Sometimes it is. Sometimes that lower number is absorbing a $3,500 to $6,000 transmission replacement that's coming whether they know about it or not. Used price range, $18,000 to $38,000. Noticeably cheaper than comparable Sprinter and Transit builds, which is exactly how buyers absorb mechanical risk without realizing it. Enforcement exposure? Low. This is the ProMaster's strongest card. It does not look like what enforcement is profiling, and in high-enforcement urban markets, that gap has measurable financial value every single week you're parked. Hidden cost. Pre-2018 transmission exposure. 2018 and later models are significantly more reliable. The used market hasn't consistently priced that distinction. Know the production year before you make an offer, not after you've already signed. Who should not buy it? Anyone planning serious off-pavement or mountain travel. Front-wheel drive has real limitations in low-traction environments. This is an urban and highway platform. If your route includes technical terrain, the ProMaster will cost you more in recovery situations than you saved at purchase. Van 4, the VW California, the right answer for European buyers. Now here's where European buyers need to pay close attention, because this is the most important thing in this entire video if continental Europe is in your travel plan. The VW California ships from the manufacturer with full European motorhome certification, the M1 category documentation that unlocks legal access to dedicated motorhome facilities across France, Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands. As EU countries tighten compliance requirements for converted vehicles, that factory certification is becoming a structural legal advantage that DIY converters cannot replicate retroactively. This is the part that catches European buyers off guard, and this is where it starts costing them weekly when they get it wrong. Used price range, €35,000 to €75,000 for 2017 to 2023 models. The Ocean trim carries the most complete certification package. The Beach trim is functional but comes with less documentation, which matters more every year as enforcement tightens. Enforcement exposure? Lowest of any van on this list in European markets. Factory certification, correct motorhome title under EU vehicle classification standards, and the California's unambiguous design eliminate virtually every behavioral targeting trigger that affects converted cargo vans in European enforcement environments. Hidden cost. Private sale certification gaps. This is the most common California buying mistake in 2026. A private seller who lost or never properly transferred the original certification documentation leaves the buyer unable to legally access certified motorhome areas, and retroactively obtaining that documentation ranges from expensive to impossible. This is the part that doesn't show up in listings until you're turned away from every air in France with no legal alternative. Verify the full certification chain before purchase. Non-negotiable. Who should not buy it? US-based buyers. The California is not officially sold in North America. Gray market imports exist, but parts availability, warranty support, and resale value are all compromised. This vehicle's advantages are entirely European-specific. The $15,000 mistake.
Here's the one costing buyers the most money in 2026, and it happens at the point of purchase, before they ever move in. This is the only mistake on this list that turns a good deal into a bad investment overnight. Buyers are purchasing raw cargo vans, converting them personally or through unlicensed shops, and never formalizing the vehicle's legal classification. They end up with a $45,000 build sitting on a commercial cargo title with zero RV ordinance protection, no access to certified motorhome areas in Europe, and complications on specialized RV insurance products, and full exposure on habitation damage claims. And this is where most buyers realize it too late, when the citations stack, the claim gets complicated, and the retroactive fix costs more than the original title conversion ever would have. The fix at purchase time, $150 to $500. The fix retroactively, if achievable at all, costs $2,000 to $8,000 in documentation, legal consultation, and in some cases, a complete rebuild to meet certification standards. Some buyers can't fix it at all. Smart buyers ask one question before signing anything. What will this vehicle's title say, and does that title protect me in the markets I'm planning to operate in? That question is worth $15,000. Ask it before you hand over the money. Non-negotiable buying rules. Mileage limits: under 120,000 miles for diesel platforms, under 100,000 for gasoline. Beyond those numbers, factor $3,000 to $6,000 of deferred maintenance into your offer, or walk. Engines to avoid: pre-2014 Sprinter CDI diesels with unresolved timing chain history, pre-2018 ProMaster ZF transmissions, high-mileage EcoBoost Transits without documented PCV service history. Years to target: 2018 to 2022 across all platforms. Post-recall corrections, pre-premium pricing on newer inventory. That 4-year window is where the value lives. Always budget $1,500 minimum on any post-purchase compliance work on any previously converted van. Assume every prior owner made decisions based on what looked good on YouTube, not what survives a compliance check. The bottom line: in 2026, the difference between freedom and fines isn't how you live, it's what you bought before you ever started. The enforcement environment has changed, the ordinances are tighter, the profiling is more systematic, and the buyers absorbing the cost are the ones who made their purchase decision based on what looked good on YouTube, without anyone explaining what the legal and financial exposure looks like on the ground, week after week, citation after citation. The right van is correctly classified on paper, low profile on the street, and documented for the specific markets you're operating in. Every other decision flows from that. Buy right once or pay for the mistake every week you're parked. Be honest, are you buying based on what looks good or what actually keeps you out of trouble in 2026? Type A or B. No explanations needed.